talked a lot going into the series about the physicality New York plays with, and obviously last series was very physical for you guys too. How much do you feel like you guys benefited last series from kind of going through what you did there, and looking back on that series, what do you feel like you guys kind of gained going into this one?
Yeah, every series presents an opportunity to learn something. Every team is going to present challenges on both ends of the floor, and we present challenges on both ends of the floor. So it's just a balance of executing, giving each game what it needs, giving each series what it needs, fighting to control the margins, and doing what it takes to win, knowing that each team presents challenges that you have to be ready to attack.
You guys used a lot of high ball pressure in that series last series. Is that something that's series specific to you, matchup specific to you, and that's going on around a lot around the league? It looks like. Yeah, how are you kind of seeing that impact playoff basketball this postseason?
You talking about us or other teams or both?
Both.
Yeah, I mean it's just another way to impact the game, and especially over the course of a series. So it's something that we're going to have to continue. At the same time, every game in series is different, so we just have to be ready to give the game and the series what it needs.
Joe, you and Brad Stevens have both said that praise can be as dangerous as criticism if you listen to it. There's a lot of people out there who look at you swept the Knicks over the course of the regular season. The matchup seems to be heavily in your favor. How do you combat that kind of praise from seeping in and kind of taking away from what you're trying to prepare for?
You have to rebound. You have to take care of the basketball. You have to defend without fouling. Those things they don't go hand in hand. At the end of the day, you have to go out there and execute on both ends of the floor. To me, the series is at 0-0, and it comes down to executing simple details over and over again with a high level of physicality and attention to detail. And you just have to be able to do that. And at the same time, have no expectations. I mean, it's the playoffs. It's two teams fighting for something. There's no one way that a series is supposed to go. As you've seen over the course of history and as you're seeing in the playoffs now, at the end of the day, have no expectations about how it's going to go. Just be ready to give the environment what it needs and do whatever it takes to win for however long it takes to win.
Joe, kind of playing off that, how much is that first game maybe a little different than others in the series, where despite the season series, what you saw against with the Knicks last series, how much of it is just being about you, and then as time goes on in the game, seeing what they're doing and then learning from that and going forward?
I mean, both teams. I mean, almost every team changes throughout a game. So it's not even about what's going on in the game. It's about what's going on throughout the game. What's working, what's not working. Very few times does plan A actually work in any arena of life. And so it's more about how quickly can you get to what makes the most sense and how quickly can you control the things that you can control. Rebounds, taking care of the basketball, defending without fouling, getting to your spacing. So to me, it's a test of discipline to doing those things. And then over the course of a game, what are the challenges that are being presented? What are the solutions to those challenges? And then going forward.
Jrue was named he got the NBA Sportsmanship Award. During your time coaching him, how have you seen kind of him exhibit those qualities that made him nominated and then ultimately win that award?
Yeah, I mean, he's both on and off the court, just a very selfless human being, always trying to be a great teammate, not only to guys in the locker room, but to his wife, his kids, to the community. I think there's a lot of guys on our team that deserve that award, but I'm glad that he got it, and he deserves it just because of the consistency of who he is, regardless of the environment that he's in.
Joe, you kept your rotation to about 8 for your Orlando series. Will you open that up a little bit? How do you kind of, look at maybe a guy that maybe didn't play in Orlando and go, okay, you might fit for this series? How does that evaluation go?
Yeah, I mean, I think that evaluation comes from what you do throughout the season, right? I think that's why we do what we do, from the standpoint of changing starting lineups, changing second half lineups, changing sub patterns constantly. At the end of the day, all of our guys are prepared to play, and each series does present different, sub patterns and different matchups that you may be able to go to depending upon there. So, to me, it's just kind of, you don't really know each other's sub patterns. Those will change throughout. You just have to be ready to give the game what it needs. And I think the series changes over the course of time. You saw in Game 4, we started Luke to start the second quarter. In Game 5, we started Peyton. So we just have to be ready to give each game what it needs depending upon, what's going on at that particular time. And so keeping that open-minded and flexibility at the same time, knowing that whoever's out there, I think, gives us a good chance to be successful.
When you're facing someone like Brunson, I mean, you're not going to stop him. But is it just a matter of making him take the shots you want him to take, and if he makes them, you got to live with it? How do you approach a player who is such a high level scorer?
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously it's not just one guy; it's a team. You have to be able to defend them as a team. But I think when you're playing against guys like that, even the things that you can control are even more important. Your transition defense, your rebounding, your spacing, your execution, your defending without fouling. I think they test those controllables with a high level of discipline. So you have to be ready to do those, and the nights and if and when you don't, obviously you have to be ready to get to something that makes the most sense at that particular time that puts you in position to try to win.
Jason's talked about it before, but in a recent interview, he said it could be the third quarter of a playoff game, and you'll tell him you love him. Why, in the heat of the moment, is it important to deliver a message like that?
Just perspective. I mean, I can get so caught up in thinking that what you're going through at that moment is like the most important thing, and what we do here is it's not the most important thing. It is an important thing at that time, and then when it's done, it's done. And so, just maintaining a level of perspective. At the end of the day, you have to. We're all on a journey together, however long that lasts. One game, a week, month, a couple years. I can't take that for granted. So it's just good to keep that perspective throughout.
Going back to Jrue's Sportsmanship Award, I think the public looks at sportsmanship as like you shake someone's hand and say good game afterwards, but that's not really how things work. What is sportsmanship, like how do you define that in the way that you guys operate, the way the NBA operates, and how does he exhibit that?
I mean, I guess my definition is you have the ultimate respect for your opponent and the people around you. With the way Jrue plays, I mean, he has a respect for every opponent that he plays against to the point where he doesn't take games off and plays with a high level of effort, attention to detail. Like that to me is sportsmanship, is the humility to know that your opponent can beat you at any time, and so you have to bring it every night. It's the best thing you could do is respect your opponent and play the way you're supposed to play. So I think he exhibits that. It's a good question because I think it is an overused term, and but at the end of the day, you have to have the ultimate respect for your environment, your opponent, your teammates, and give the game what it needs. And he does that. He gives the game what it needs, gives his family what it needs, gives the community what it needs. That's showing up every day. It's important.
You said a little bit earlier about how things are supposed to go, and you said as you've seen over the course of history. Do you lean on history at all? Like whether even just looking back at how things went in various series or predicaments teams were in, whether talking to the guys or even just context for yourself or your coaching staff?
Yeah, so I mean that just maintains a high level of perspective, and it goes back to the other question of like you could easily sit there and think what's going on right now is like the most important thing in the end of the world, and no one's ever been down 1-0, no one's ever been down, and then you go back and look at it, and it's like it happens all the time. It's just so it gives you a great long-term perspective, especially looking at some of the greats. Whether it's the great players, the great teams, the great coaches. Everybody goes through stuff, but and it's easy to say you're grateful for going through it after you go through it. No one's ever grateful for it when you're going through it because of the horse with blinders and thinking that it's the worst thing ever. So I mean, it just gives you amazing perspective. There's been great teams that have gone down. There's been great teams that have blown leads, kept leads. All that stuff just kind of shows into the nature of the competitive arena that you're in. And you have to take the good with the bad if you plan on being in it for a good amount of time. So studying that gives you the perspective that you need to get to where you want to get to.
Hey Joe, back here. You just mentioned great coaches. With the news that Coach Popovich is done in San Antonio, just what can you learn from his career and the success that he had?
I mean, I don't know him that well, and I was obviously young throughout most of his coaching career. But I think the thing that sticks out is how what his former players say about him, years later. Right? I think that's even more important than kind of what goes on now is can you have the type of relationship with 10, 15, 20 years down the line. You have relationships with your former players, and they're able to say nice things about you, and you're able to say relatively nice things about them. And I think that the way people talk about him even after they've played, I think is a testament to who he was as a coach and a person. Thank you, Joe. Thanks.